Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we have a very special session. It is officially our 46th class since we started these sessions in COVID times. Alhamdulillah, we've come this far, and I hope the people who are joining today, in addition to those who are our regular guests, will benefit from the session that we have. As a background, we will do the intention because that's what we normally do at the start of these classes, and then we'll get into the session, inshallah. Okay, so, and this is the intention that we have, is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. نويت تعلم التعليم وتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وثوابه وقربه سبحانه وتعالى. So for our regular participants, they know, hopefully they know the translation of that, but if you don't, the translation is on the screen. It basically allows us to focus our intention for the next hour or two, that what we're going to do is ultimately for the pleasure of Allah. We're going to seek this knowledge and intend to share it, looking to get the pleasure of Allah in this world and the hereafter. So with that, we move on to today. We are looking at life beyond formal education. We've got some very special guests. Two will be appearing on the screen live, and then one will be a pre-recorded session, inshallah. We will have that at about the 10:45 mark. We'll have the recorded session, and then we'll carry on. So we have the guests, Mr. Isaac Mulindwa, who will introduce shortly. We have Mr. Calvin Mugenyi, who is our pre-recorded guest, as well as Mr. Isaac Sekalala. Inshallah, we can benefit from all of these people. They have traveled the path that many of our teens are traveling. And inshallah, there's some valuable lessons that they can share. It doesn't mean that they've got it all. All it means that they have some really, really good lessons to share that we can benefit from. So if there's anything that they do share that is good for you, inshallah, please do take it. And if you do know of any teens that are your friends, family who haven't joined the session yet, please do send them the link quickly because this is a session not to be missed. Okay, so before we start with the interviews that we will have, we have what we call the dimensions of this religion. This program is a weekly program. It runs every Sunday from 10 to about 11:30. Today's session will be till 12 o'clock, inshallah, so a 2-hour session. But we try to look at those things that will enable us to balance our life in this world with our life as our Creator wants us to live it in order to get the ultimate success in the hereafter. So in order to do that, we have the aspect of Iman, which is faith, what we believe. We then have Islam, the outward submission, which is the actual physical acts of worship. So the salah, the fasting, the zakah, when you pay out the shahada, when we say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, that is a submission. But it starts with faith in the heart. Without that, we can't do these things the way we want to do them and in the best way. Which then leads us to the third dimension, which is the dimension of spiritual excellence, ihsan. And all three have got to marry in order for us to have that balanced path in this life that will lead us to the joy in the hereafter. And what we're doing today, we have taken the time to look at Iman. What is Iman? We look at Islam, but we are very, very aware of the fact that all of these things do not live in a vacuum. They live in our hearts, they live in our lives, and in this life, we need to get along with people around us. We need to work, we need to enjoy the pleasures that Allah has given us that are permissible and halal. So today's session is really to take us, it's not a step away, but to try and find a holistic, a start to a holistic approach that yes, we have the religion, yes, we practice this as best as we can, but we should not forget our share of the hereafter, of this world. We should not forget our share of this world. This is something that the Prophet taught us, and it's something that Allah himself tells us about, that he tells us, go and seek your rizq in the earth. So how do we seek it? Inshallah, we hope that we can get some answers to those questions to the people who are our guests today. So it's not so much, some of you may have been thinking that this is a complete diversion from what we're doing. It's absolutely not. We need to use all the means that Allah has put to us to gain the eternal felicity, the eternal joy and happiness in the hereafter. And the world of education and beyond forms very much a part of that. Okay, so we will start with an introduction of Mr. Isaac Mulindwa. I'm going to stop sharing the screens because that's all I needed it for, inshallah. We will be taking, oops, how do I stop this? SubhanAllah, my technology is disturbing me today, but alhamdulillah. Okay, so today, alhamdulillah, we have Mr. Isaac Mulindwa, our guest, who is going to be talking to participants, listeners out there. Just to let you know, Mr. Isaac, we've got teenagers all the way from 13. We get some preteens as well, all the way to about 20, 21 as our core audience. But today's session, we do have parents as well. And I did encourage parents to join because there's some lessons that they can take and share with their teens. So welcome, Mr. Mulindwa.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we have Mr. Mulindwa, who I will do an introduction, then we can jump into a conversation with you. I'm really excited about this. So Isaac Mulindwa is the founder of Mulin services in America. And for some of you who've seen him around town, you'll see the Mulin. It comes from somewhere, and they're parts of the world where this is actually seen as a name in business. He is a sales director of Radio Simba. He has a number of exploits, which inshallah he will tell us about, in entrepreneur exploits, business exploits. He is involved in events management. He mentors people. In modern day business terms, I would say he is that jack of all trades that makes everything happen to the best way possible. And there is no better opportunity for us to learn than from a person like this who has traveled the world, seen how it's done everywhere, as well as in Uganda, and can put it into context into our Ugandan lives and our teenage lives with the wealth of experience. Welcome. So the floor is yours, Mr. Isaac Mulindwa.
Thank you very much. I think I want to jump right in because of the time we have. So I will start not by introducing myself all over again, because Sophia has done a great job of that. But let's go into business right away, because I think everybody wants to know about business, how you start a business, why you start a business, and how do you make sure that this particular business is successful. One of the things I learned at a very, very early age, and I think I was very lucky. Some of us are lucky that we're born in families where you have parents that are both in business, and they get you involved at an early age to understand what goes on. So my father did a great job of taking us around from an early age to understand how work happens. You know, farms, business in terms of trading, building, dealing with people, managing human resource. For some reason, those are very, very lessons that I learned at an early age without actually realizing that I was probably what I'd like to call a school. Not a formal school, but a school which was being run by my own father. So for me, that has guided me. A couple of things that I learned very quickly, and everybody should know. Normally, I encourage people to have a pen and a notebook to note a few things, not to write everything down, but to note a few things. If the fundamental part of business And this can never be broken. If this is not there, then don't even bother starting or don't even bother going into business with that person. The fundamental part is trust. Trust. Because trust wraps up everything else that you're going to encounter and deal with in business. For starters, when it comes to trust, people, if you ask people, what don't you like about somebody in business? I don't want somebody to lie to me. What don't you like? I don't want someone who can deliver. But trust. You need to have trust. Never go into business with somebody you do not trust. That is it doesn't give it. Never have a partner you don't trust, because it will only end in a disaster. That doesn't mean you don't try, but always when you're going to try with that kind of a person, you need to keep it in mind and be mindful of that. Now, trust comes in many forms. Trust can come from in the form of, if I promise to deliver something to my client, I always deliver it. And I have another thing that I tell people: never, never, never promise someone something you can't deliver, because that breaks the trust. So normally I'll say, promise the earth and deliver heaven. Your client will be happy. Because I come here and I tell you, Rael, if you ask me to do something for you and you ask me how many days will it take you to deliver my project or whatever it is, I'll always give you a number that is slightly higher than I think it will take me. I'll probably tell you it will take me 2 days when I know it will take me 1 day. Because as soon as I deliver it in 1 day, you'll then trust me more, you'll even give me more work. So trust is important. Another thing in business, when you're going to start a business, it starts when you're young. Business is not something that you just jump into. Everything we do around ourselves in life actually is business. The way you deal with your age mates, you're doing a business transaction of some sort. Either you're asking them to go out with you and you need to convince them to come with you. You need to entice them to come with you. Or you're asking them to come to your house to visit you. When you ask them to come to your house, you've got to deliver certain things for them to like it so that they can come back again. So business starts at an early age. It's not that you jump in and say you're going to start. Business is not about money, that you're going to be dealing with money. No, it starts at an early age. If you cannot handle those issues when you're a child, you'll still have the same problems handling them up when you grow up. If your dealings with other kids or other age mates of yours are not very good, you'll have the same problem in business. If your dealings with other age mates of yours in purchasing things, lending them money, them lending you money, and there is no trust and nobody pays you back or you don't pay them back, you will have the same problem when you grow up. So you need to watch all these things when you're still young. Now, life and business, there are a couple of other lessons besides trust. One, you need to set your own destination. At an early age, you need to know where you want to be in life at the end of your life, in terms of success, in terms of work. I'm going to concentrate on the part of work. You need to set that at a very, very, very early age. You need to know how you want your life to turn out in terms of business or work. But mainly it's your life, because you need to understand, I want to live in a nice house. I want to have a nice car. I want my children to go to a good school. I want to take holidays. You need to know all these things you want to do. Once you know them, that is setting your destination. Once you've set your destination, then you've got to be, the second part, you've got to be determined to achieve it. You have to be determined, because if you're not determined, some people say you've got to be focused. Yeah, focused falls under determined, because once you're determined that you're going to achieve something, then you'll get your focus right, you'll get your thoughts right, you'll get your timing right, you'll get everything that goes right in order to achieve your set goals or the set destination where you want to be. So you've got to be determined. And once you're determined, nothing can stop you. The other thing is, as you transit through business or work, you're going to find something else that you think is not important, but which is very, very important in business: competition. Competition is another thing you need to be mindful of. Competition is good in any form it comes in. Never be scared of competition. Yeah, never be scared of competition. And again, it also competition and being scared of it starts at an early age. If you're in school and you are part of, let's say, these days you have different houses in the school, the green house, the red house, the blue house, whatever house it is. Be proud and happy that you have competitors, because competition drives quality. Competition forces you to look at yourself and how to improve yourself and how to improve whatever you're doing. So never be scared of competition. In fact, look at competition as something you want, because whenever you have competition, even in business, you will then tend to do whatever you're doing better, so that the clients come to you and not your competitor. So always look at competition that way. You need to make sure that whatever your competitor is doing, do it even better. Then they will also do it better. They will force you to even improve better. So competition is always good. So don't be afraid of competition. The next one is called risk. Risk. You can't be successful in business or in work in most cases if you cannot take risks. However, I always tell people that always take what I call calculated risk. You need to first calculate the risk and understand, if I do this, what are the possible results? And if you find that the possible results are worse than what you can risk, don't do it. You understand? Don't do it for whatever reason. Take calculated risk. A good example, and this is a story, this is a very common story with all, some people and old people and aged people who've been in business. He goes around, sees a new business deal, importing, I don't know, somebody convinces you to go and start trading in jeans because jeans make a lot of money. Now, suddenly you go to a bank, you mortgage your house. You don't know how jeans work. You mortgage your house, they give you a loan, you go buy these jeans, you bring them in, then it doesn't work. When it doesn't work, the bank doesn't care. They want their money. They'll eventually come for your house, which is your home. Suddenly you, your wife and children have nowhere to live. So that is not a calculated risk. There are some things you should never be able to risk. There are certain things you put a full stop on, say, I will not risk that one unless you know you can salvage them. Yeah. So calculated risk is important as well. So another one is setting your course. You need to set your course in life. Where are you going? Now that you know the destination, once you know the destination, I will set that destination. Once you know that one, then you need to have a plan how you're going to get there. You're not just going to wake up in the morning and get there. It won't happen. You need to make sure you've set a plan, which is setting the course. How are you going to move from A to B to C to D to E, and eventually you get to whatever letter you wanted to be at. It doesn't have to be the last letter in the alphabet, but whichever letter you personally chose to be your destination, where your destiny is. So I think those for me are the most important things that you need to watch for when you're going to be in business. And by the way, as I said, they don't start when you're old. They all start when you're young. And you need to start practicing them now, because you need to practice them such that when you grow up, you can actually be their second nature. They're actually second nature to you. So I think in short, that's what I would say.
Thank you very much for that. It's very refreshing to look at a very grown-up subject, but related to the lives that they have now as teens. That each of those things that you mentioned, business, is actually a prerequisite now in the teenage years, because nothing is going to change from what you have now in terms of character and determination and skills into successful lives in business or work if it hasn't started at this point in time, if we're looking at teens. One of the things that I wanted to pull out, and you could help us explore further, Mr. Mulindwa, is success. We've talked about success. Obviously, we go into work, we want to be successful. Some of us have already, of these 6 elements in our teams, we've already kind of set, not necessarily the destination, but we've set the vision that I want to be able to earn a salary in dollars. I want to go on holiday that costs this much. I want to be able to drive a car like this and whatever, live in a house like this or whatever. But we don't do enough to make sure that it will be done in a risk-free way, or rather we jump into it and we strive to achieve something that ends up backfiring in so many respects. So what in your estimation or your view is success? How can we measure success at each of the levels? Because we cannot jump to that dream immediately. How can we measure success as we move along this journey?
That's very, what can I say? Success. I always tell people how to measure success. Success, and this is where most people make a mistake. Success is not measured by what size of a house you live in, not measured by what size of car you drive, not measured by what kind of schools your kids go in to. That for me is all superficial success. The only way to measure success, and people can be successful at totally different levels in life and how they are, depending on their set destiny. Yeah. Success for me and how I measure success is a simple question. How long can you maintain your lifestyle if you stopped working today? You need to always ask yourself that question. How long can you maintain your lifestyle if you, for any God-given reason, you stopped working? One, it could be COVID. COVID came, we literally stopped working. Yeah. Two, it could be an injury, an illness, anything that can happen to you that you did not predict could happen to you, which causes you to stop earning in whatever form, business, employed, it doesn't matter. The question is, how long can you maintain your lifestyle when that happens to you? Now, the person who can maintain their lifestyle the longest without working are successful. That's a successful person. And people ask why. You can imagine someone who lives in a medium-sized house, the kids go to a small public school, he drives a small car, and the lifestyle is, they don't go on abroad holidays, but once in a while they'll go on a holiday within the country or village or whatever, visit their relatives. That's their lifestyle. And for some reason, something forces the mother and the father that they cannot earn the money anymore. But that lifestyle continues. They continue to maintain their home. They continue to drive that same small car. They continue to send the kids to the schools they used to go to. They continue to visit the people they used to visit for. And if that can happen for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, if you can do that, then you're successful. Never measure success by looking at someone just because they have a big house, a big car, and they're going to Europe all the time. And then, but suddenly, if something happens to them today, they move out of the big house, the kids go out of the schools they're in, they can't travel into, they can't travel anymore like they used to. That's where success is done. So whenever you're in your life, it goes back to what Aunt Sophia said. You need to be able to pay for the bills you have to maintain the life. Do not spend more than you earn. Do not overspend. Do not go into this frenzy of trying to compete with your neighbor and your friends. Just because they bought a big car, you must buy a big car. Just because they're going to Europe for holidays, you must go to Europe. No, you don't have to. You can go on holiday in Africa. You can go on holiday in Uganda, what you can afford to do. So for me, that's success. And success in work where you're employed, it's the same thing. You need to make sure that first you're delivering. Remember when I told you, promise the earth and deliver the moon or deliver the sky? When you go to be employed, promise the same things that you know you can deliver, and then strive to deliver even more. The people that get promoted are not the people that talk and talk and talk and talk, but the people that are delivering more than what they're supposed to deliver. Personally, that's one of my important things where I would become very successful, is because I always deliver. So my clients have me trusted. They know if they call Isaac Mulindwa to do something and he says he's going to do it, he will do it, and he'll do it past and beyond what he promised to do. That is where you keep getting more work and more work and more work. You'll notice that most of my businesses and my relationship with my clients are very, very long term. I do not have short-term clients. You find they're long-term, they repeat for years and years and years. They keep coming back to me because they know I will deliver and they trust I will. So for me, that's success. I have succeeded in acquiring the client. I have succeeded in maintaining that client by the virtue of all the things I told you before, being determined, delivering on time, doing all these things. So bottom line for me, success in a single line is the person who can live the longest in the lifestyle they've been living in without being able to earn. So the people who maintained, for example, COVID was here for about 2 years, and a lot of people had to move out of their houses. They couldn't pay their rent. They couldn't, drive their cars anymore. They were struggling for food. But there are people who continue to eat and be in their houses and maintain their lifestyle even without an income. That is success.
Thank you very much. A very good answer. And I think it's a completely different way of looking at things, because often we're told, and we see it on the billboards around us, this car, that car, this lifestyle, this outing, this outfit, this drink, whatever it is. And it drives us to unachievable and unsustainable routes to superficial success. So thank you very much for that. I hope we've all picked a lesson from that. We have a question that's come through on the chat, which I'll put to you, and then I'll ask you another question. It says, this is from Fatuma Birunji. My measurements of success is how will I be able to maintain my life out of work, which is what you've answered really in the last few minutes. My question to you and Mr. Sekalala, if he's on, how are you able to achieve that? I think you may have answered that, but I don't know whether you feel you need to add to this. How are you able to achieve that, that success?
Okay. The only way to achieve it, again, is to make sure that you're saving. You have to save, or you have to save and then invest. You have to forego some things now so that you're setting up yourself for the future. It doesn't matter how much you're saving and at what level you're earning. At any level you are, you need to make sure that you're saving so that you can invest in something else that will help sustain your life if you stopped working. So I think that's the only way: saving, 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 saving. And saving doesn't mean, most people think that you start saving when you have a lot of money. No. Again, you have to live within your income means. If you are living within your income means, you will have some money to save. Most biggest mistake is living outside your income means, meaning you only, for example, if you're employed and they're paying you, I don't know, 1.5 million shillings, but then you go rent a house that is 800,000 shillings. I mean, doesn't make sense. You're already spending more than 50% of your salary on rent. You're dead. Means you're living beyond your means. If you're being paid 1.5 million shillings, you should be looking for a house that is costing about not more than 300,000. Instead of wasting the other 200,000 in rent, save it so that you can build your own house down the road. And you building your own house down the road doesn't mean you're going to start with a big house. No, you will start by buying a small plot in an inexpensive area, and you start by building one there. But as you grow, you buy another one in another area, and then you build another one in another area. Or you'll start a smaller business, like a chicken business, farming on a small scale. It doesn't matter what it is, selling things, baking and selling, anything that will earn you some extra money that you can now save as well. You first have to save where you're working. Then when you take your savings, put them in something that will make you even more money. And once that money is made, you put that money into something else that will make you more money. So you keep on moving it up like that. It is not about waking up and you think you're going to have it all. It's impossible. In fact, most people who wake up and have it all, it tends to get destroyed. Because father becomes successful, father makes money, daughter or son thinks, well, I don't know how to work anyway. I inherit the money, but within the next 5-10 years, you're back on the ground. You've sold everything. You don't have anything left. You always need to be able to add on to whatever you've got, be it yours or be that it has been given to you. You need to add on. Never, never live a lifestyle where you're not adding on to something that you either have or you've been given. What you have is what your income is. You go, you get a salary, save some money, use that money to add on to your life in the future. If your father gives you something, your mother gives you something, doesn't matter. God forbid your mother passes away or your father passes away and you inherit a business or you inherit a home, a house. Make sure you add on to that house. Do not be the example that I see. You go and see a house somewhere along the road. It's a big house, and it tells you, the owner, whoever built this house must have been a well-off man who did well. But then the house is dilapidated, meaning whoever inherited that house didn't know what to do with it, didn't add on to it. All they did is destroy, and eventually they'll just sell it. So that's the answer for me.
Thank you very much. I'll put to you one question, and then we'll have the interview with Calvin Mugenyi, who couldn't join us today live because he's traveling. But my question is, we've got, as I said, this session is usually for teens, but we have parents on as well. If I am a 13-year-old, is it too early to start a business?
It is never too early to start.
What can I do as a 13-year-old girl?
All right. It is never, never, never too early to start a business. You can start a business at any age, at any time. Some of the most successful people started business when they are even before teens. They started doing something. And we need to learn from the developed countries. Most people don't know that, but I'm going to talk to the 13-year-old and below. But let me first make a bigger picture presentation. We need to learn from the developed countries where the children start working at an early age, delivering newspapers, cleaning people's yards, doing something for money. Now, coming back to our setup here in Uganda, you see, business is about seeing an opportunity and taking it. And opportunities are all over the place. They're everywhere, even in your own school. You see, you wake up in the morning and people are talking about a bracelet of some sort. I've seen people make bracelets out of beads and they become quickly fashionable, and somebody makes money out of it by selling them to other people at school. One of those people was Tara, my daughter, who then passed it on down. But I think because she's also been growing out around two business people, so she's seen what business is about and how to do. Tara started selling things at school at an early age, selling cookies, selling bracelets, selling everything. Time we traveled, Tara was joined by Kayla, was joined by Anila. You would see that they're talking about buying something that they could sell to their friends at school for a profit. And some of these things I would be shocked. They would buy something for 1,000 shillings and they come and tell me they sold it for 5,000 shillings. And I'd say, but who bought it? Say, oh, people buy it. And there are many people who want them. So starting a business is seeing an opportunity and always look out for that opportunity. And once you see it, then you need to fulfill it. If you are in school, that's your market. That's your market. That's where you start. Then from that market, the next market you have is your family and relatives. Whatever you do, those are your easy people to sell to in your beginning. In fact, they're so easy and so good that some of them will buy your things just to help you out. And you get started and then you grow. So you need to start thinking. And business is not for everybody, by the way. I mean, business is not for everybody. Let's not be mistaken. There are two types of human beings. There's one type, which is the employer, and there's the other type, which is the employed. And there's nothing wrong with either type, as long as you choose which one you're going to be, and then focus and succeed. The ones that choose to be employers, those are the people that tend to become business people. They're business oriented. That's where their mind is. Because never try to do what you don't know or what is not, what your mind doesn't accept. You'll always fail. Never be forced to become a doctor if you don't want hospitals and medicine and blood. Don't be forced into it, because you will fail in life. So you need always to do something that you personally feel you like. Don't be forced to go into doing business if your mind is not in business. If you feel you're more comfortable working somewhere in an organization, saving your money and growing that way, do that. It's the best way to do it. But please, if your mind is business oriented, start. I've seen people who start business online, selling chocolate, selling clothes, selling bracelets, selling all sorts of things. I mean, my kids have grown up around me, so I tend, and their mother, so they tend to have that business mind. They're always trying out something. But also the other thing is finding partners. Yeah. And again, partners don't come when you're old, but these are business partners. They start when you're young. If you have an idea, take the risk you can afford. If the thing requires 10,000 shillings to start, find somebody else who will bring the 5,000, you bring the 5,000. So that if it doesn't work, you lose your entire 10,000. Remember calculated risk? That's calculated risk. If something requires 50,000, don't struggle to bring all the entire 50,000. Find two other people. Let each one bring 15,000. So if it doesn't work, you don't lose a lot. But if it works, you all get to share into it. So you can start businesses at an early age, very, very early in age. Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is. You can choose to wash people's cars. It is all in your mind, by the way. It's in your mind. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. We'll have definitely lots of questions. If anyone's joining us late, this is a session that we're looking at life beyond formal education. We've got our guests, Mr. Isaac Mulindwa, Mr. Calvin Mugenyi, and Mr. Isaac Sekalala, who'll be joining us. They're all at different levels of this journey in life beyond education. Inshallah, we hope that you can benefit. And if there's anyone that you haven't told about this session, please get them on. But it's not all lost if anyone misses it, because they absolutely can't make it. It will be available on YouTube later on. By Tuesday, it will be uploaded onto YouTube for anyone that missed it. Inshallah, we're now moving on to another aspect of the program. We have an interview with a young professional. Mr. Mulindwa talked about people who are cut out either to do business or to be employed. Now we're looking at a young professional, Calvin Mugenyi. He is relationship manager at Citibank, and he talks to us about his education background and how he moved into employment and some of the things that he found where deliberation on his part met with opportunity that was presented to him and how he's moving on. Inshallah, I hope you do benefit, because there are really some good lessons that he presents to us. Just bear with me a moment. I will share. I'll share that video. Do let me know quickly enough if the audio is compromised or anything like that, inshallah. Okay, thank you very much. So we've got on today's session This is going to be a discussion with Calvin Mugenyi, who is a relationship manager at Citibank, if I'm right. And he has very, very kindly joined us. You see, it's not the daytime that we usually hold these sessions, but he was very keen to share some of his experiences of. And if you could just confirm to me that you can see the video, because I don't want to go too far in and realize that you couldn't see the video. Could you just confirm that you could see the video a moment ago?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, we'll carry on. I didn't want to lose people and realize that long into the program. What life beyond education is. So Calvin, very, very welcome to our session today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And for the viewers, I'm not sure yet whether it's appropriate to give some embarrassing anecdotes or not, but I'll leave those because I knew Calvin when he was a lot younger, but I'll leave those for outside of this. But it's beautiful to actually see that he's grown, and from what I get of feedback from of what's happening in Calvin's life, he's doing really well, and he's moved from that little boy that I remember to a very responsible young man in employment. And this is where the discussion comes in. Calvin, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your education, and then we'll talk about how you transitioned into work. As we've said before, this is for our viewers and participants who are in their teens, for whom we would like to get that balance between life and the worldly life and the spiritual life. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Sophia. As Sophia mentioned, my name is Calvin Mugenyi, currently working at Citibank. I've been there almost, I just made 3 years in end of June, and still working there. A little bit about my background. I studied at Green Hill Academy from pre-primary until P6. Before P6 ended, I went to St. Andrew's Turi in Kenya, and I was there all the way up to year 13, which is equivalent of S6. After year 13, I went to the University of Manchester in the UK, where I studied international business, finance, and economics, and graduated in 2017. Thereafter, I didn't go straight into formal employment. It was an interesting journey, maybe I'd say. Did about 2017, mid 2017 is when I graduated. Then in between September to November, I did a 3-month internship at a NGO in the States. I forget the name, but I think it was an organization that was helping small businesses within the different boroughs in New York get their skills, get the business owners get a bit of business skills, and create a business plan, learn how to do cash flows. How I got that opportunity is actually thanks to my parents. It was through this organization called the Intern Group, where they offer services for people that are looking for internships in different locations. It is a paid service, but I think it helped. I got the opportunity to be in New York in the States, work with different business owners, teach them how to understand the basic cash flow statements, basic income statement, and balance sheet. While I was that side, in fact, at the time I was still not sure what I wanted to do, which I think is okay at that point in time. Following uni, I was thinking of investment banking. At the same time, not sure what I wanted to do. So during my time there, the head of the NGO was, I think, a former investment banker, Goldman Sachs. So I had the opportunity to speak to her a bit, and also she connected me with one of our friends that worked at another investment bank, who was in HR. And I remember the meeting I had, because at the time I just liked to work with numbers. And she told me, listen, the investment banking world, people are very on their game. So they're recruiting people from university. Each of their holidays, they're networking, doing internships, and they start the recruitment then. So she was saying that you just can't like numbers for you to be in this field. So I was like, okay, I don't know maybe this is not the world I want to be in. So after the internship, came back to Uganda towards the end of 2017. So in beginning of 2018, I started working with my father, who runs Silk Events. So was there for about 3 months. Oh, actually, at that time, I sat down with my dad, and we came up with a plan on how to what am I going to do to keep busy. So I did 3 months at Silk Events, then I did 3 months at Spear Motors. At Spear Motors, I worked in the sales department and in the stores, in the parts department. So I was there walking up and down the parts, seeing all the parts for the different cars. I came just before, as they were planning for stock taking, so they were trying to organize all the parts and everything. Coming back to Uganda, of course, was a culture shock, because a shock of sorts, because I'd been in boarding school for a long time and then to the UK. So you can imagine, from 2007 all the way up to 2017, so almost 10 years, I would only be in Uganda for holidays. So holiday season is different from what's happening on the ground in Uganda. So there was, of course, an adjustment. You're at home when there's different seasons. You've never been home when it's maybe very hot or very rainy, or in the month of Feb, for example, at home, which was quite interesting to think of at the time. So there was quite an adjustment. Of course, now coming from school, where all you need to worry about is school, to a point where really I didn't really know what to do, but what kept me going is that I was open to learning and giving it my best. So at every part where I did experience was my thought process was learn, be open-minded. You can learn something from anyone, and put in the work and show effort. So throughout these different experiences, I did learn about different things, working with people, meeting new people, and so even at Spear Motors, same thing. Then I applied. I got told about an internship at Citibank at the time, and through my father, who knew the HR at the time. So applied, went through the interview process, and started the internship in August. Citibank, I didn't know about it before. I didn't know that corporate banking existed, which is what Citibank is in Uganda. You may not see branches of it across town, because it is only a corporate bank and doesn't have accounts for individuals. I myself, as the staff, don't have accounts at Citibank. So I didn't know that world existed of banking for companies. So it was quite a learning experience. We were, I think, a group of about 13, 15 people from different backgrounds. Some people went to school in Uganda, some people had gone to school abroad. But it was interesting, learned a lot. If I compare it to where I am now, I didn't even scratch the surface of what goes on in the bank, but it was good exposure in seeing, one, I learned that there's corporate banking and being in informal employment. After the internship was 2 months. After that, I went through a bit of a low period, didn't know what I wanted to do at that point in time. Didn't really have the motivation to apply to places to work in general, because really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I remember I was ambushed by two of my aunts. I won't mention their names, but they were like, "Calvin, what's going on? I mean, you were always a good student. We thought you'd be in employment now, applying for jobs. What's going on?" This was towards the end of 2018, and of course, you try to explain yourself that you don't really know, but they were just pushing me to live up to the potential they saw in me. So towards going into beginning of 2019, I was thinking of doing consulting, and I don't remember why I wanted to do consulting at the time, but there was an opening at this company called Open Capital. Went through the interview process, first round, second round, till the final round. So I was a bit optimistic. Okay, maybe this may be where I'll be working. But at the same time, when I applied to Open Capital, there was an analyst program for Citibank that opened, and I told myself, you know what, let me just apply. I didn't apply with hopes of getting it. I just applied, you know what, let me not miss this opportunity. Let me just put in my application. So that aside, the rounds of interviews for Open Capital happened very fast. And then the last round, they took almost a month to get back to me, but unfortunately I didn't get it. So this is probably March 2019. At the time, whenever I wasn't at that time after Citibank, I was still working with my dad, but didn't have the same motivation of getting up and going to work. But I mean, I would show up. Same thing in 2020, all through June. I'll get to that. But that aside, I also would do some work with one of my uncles who was also a mentor at the time. He would try to keep me busy, also talk to me, what do you want to do? What kind of work? I have this work for you. So I ended up helping them, their investment club, do some analysis on the different investments they had done, and comparing it to if they had invested. So they had invested in some stocks, and I compared it in if they had invested in the T-bills and treasury bills and bonds. You don't need to know what that is now if you don't, but did that analysis for them. Then he was getting me involved in some of the financials for the company that for their family business, and I think that helped in terms of keeping me busy. Then, out of the blue, towards the end of June, Citibank reached out to me, saying that I've been called in for an interview. I was like, okay. So did the first round of interviews, and of course, because I had interned there, it was familiar faces in the panel. Bear in mind, this program, end of May is when they reached out to me, because the program was starting in July. So they did the first round end of May. Then I think in about 2 weeks, I did the final round with the MD and executive director. It was a bit tough, but did my best. Then quickly thereafter, I found out that I was successful. And this program, we were, I think, about 18 different analysts from 17 different countries. So one of Citi's prestigious programs was grateful to be a part of it. So got to meet different people. But what happened is things happened so fast. So once I got in, next thing I know, I'm trying to get my visa and immigration done. And next thing I knew, I was in Dubai for 3 weeks for training. While there, got to meet people from different countries, from Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, and some countries in the Middle East, some of whom are still at Citi to this day. And the program is 1 year, but but they don't guarantee you employment. So they will help you be retained because they've trained you, but it wasn't a guarantee. So went into it open-minded, and of course trying to make the most of the opportunity. After the 3 weeks, I came back for like 2 days. Then I was in Kenya, in the Citibank Kenya office for 3 months at the credit risk, because credit risk is hubbed out of Kenya. Most of the team sits there. And it was interesting being in the office is much bigger than Uganda. Of course, you have imposter syndrome, worried about getting, if you really deserve the role or whether you can do the work. But I kept trying to put my head down and just taking it a day at a time, and getting the courage to ask questions where I wasn't sure of, and then moved on to corporate and investment banking in Uganda, where I did part of my internship. Then I was in this department called Treasury and Trade Solutions, which manages the transactions, the cash and trade products. Then that was January. So my program was ending July, but there was no opening in Citi, Uganda. And I at the time really wanted to be in Uganda. I wasn't open to working at another Citibank outside. But COVID, and I remember at the time there were 2 openings, but both of them were for like experienced people with many years of experience. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't even have 1 year in official employment. I don't know if it's even worth it applying. So still, I didn't know where I exactly wanted to be in the bank. And then COVID happened in March, and they froze the hiring of a senior relationship manager that they were interviewing for. I think they had done a couple of interviews. And at the time they froze the hiring. It was now lockdown and restrictions. And my current boss at the time reached out asking, he called me and said that the HR tells me that you prefer this other department and not mine. Is that true? So I at the time I told him, no, that's not true. I'm open. I mean, if an opportunity comes in both departments, I'll be happy to take it. So he said, okay, that's noted. And basically at that point, just to cut it a bit short, they worked behind the scenes to advertise a more junior role, a relationship manager role at the bank. So they advertised it. I went through the interview process because it was free for anybody to apply, both within and out of Citi. Did the interview process and was successful. And I started the role in November 2020 officially. And still in the role, but currently currently I've been fortunate to get the opportunity to go for a short-term assignment in Citibank South Africa for 9 months. 6 months I'll be in South Africa, and 3 months in remotely from Uganda, and I'll be starting in 1st October. So looking forward to that. Maybe just to summarize my journey, I would not have predicted where I am now. If you told me even a year ago that I would be having this opportunity, I would tell myself, no, you're lying. But some of the key things that have worked for me is, especially during the transition from education to work, is one, it's okay when you're coming into the working world, it's okay not to know everything. You'd be surprised, people who are working in the field, who've been in their working roles for many years, are still learning. It's just they're still learning as they go along. They just have more experience in handling different things. So each day as you go, as you ask questions, as you learn, your foundation builds. And the only way to do that is being intentional in the working world. You have to put in the work. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because if you don't know, people will be willing to help, at least from my experience. And just being intentional in the working world. And I think if you put in the work and do that, good things happen. At least that's what has happened for me. So Yeah, in a nutshell, that's been my journey. I know I've gone through a long journey, but yeah, that's it. I don't know if you have any questions.
Yes, I do. I do. Thank you for that, Calvin. It's been interesting just listening to your experiences and some of the things that I'd like to pick up and explore a little bit, because we don't want to take this out too long. But one of the things that you talked about was you got this opportunity to do an internship with Citibank, and also the internship with the intern group. First of all, what is the value of internships? Because many people won't know what they are. And do you feel that they added something to who you are today?
Yes. In fact, I would strongly encourage it. When I look back in terms of all the many holidays I had at school, even from high school, you know, at the time, it's maybe something that you're not thinking of, because, I mean, you just want to get away from school or get away from uni and be at home. But I'd encourage it, even if it's, I don't know, going to where an aunt or uncle or one of your parents works, being there for 3 days a week or 2 days a week, just to see what's happening and what's going on in different organizations, will help you at least get an understanding of what's happening in the working world before you get there. And it could also then interest you in what you don't like and what you like. So I didn't do much internships throughout uni and school, if I'm honest, and it's something that I would strongly encourage to do, because like I said, it gives you that what's the word I'm looking for, that exposure into something that you're not used to. Because ordinarily you're going to school, going to class, learning about the different subjects in school, but doing the internships is getting that exposure to what's happening outside in the real world. And if you have that experience as you finish university, you're building your CV as well. So someone who does that may be able to get a job straight out of uni. Or decide they want to go into business straight out of uni, but they have a bit of an idea. Even if you don't do that, I think it's still okay, because at the end of the day, we're still young. I'm older than, I think, probably all of you on this, except the parents, all of the students on this call, but I still consider myself young despite my age and where I am, and I just feel like I'm only getting started. So if you can get that jump, maybe you have an RM role, I don't know, a year or 2 years before I got mine, and that's what I tell some of my friends who are in the years below me, that it's okay if you don't know as well, but if you just keep doing something, keep busy, try to keep busy. For those who are still maybe in high school, you don't have to work the whole holiday. Like I said, even if it's 2-3 days a week, just being exposed to what does mom do at work, what does dad do at work, what does uncle so and so or auntie so and so do at work, could help and go a long way.
Okay, thank you for that. That's very valuable advice. Just reaching out. I think what you're pointing out, reach out to the immediate network you have, your parents, aunties, uncles. What do they do? Exposure to that could help young people see and explore what their interests and determine what it is they end up at. I think the other question that I have, Calvin, is how the transition from life under the wings of your parents to life on your own. So we growing up, we always have the shelter of, okay, if anything happens, I'll run to mom, I'll run to dad, they'll sort this out, they'll do this for me, they'll cover the bills, you don't even worry about bills. So just that transition into, okay, now I've got to think and make decisions that impact me, and can't always run to the parents. How best, is there any way you can think people can prepare for that moment?
Maybe I'm not the best example for that one, because fortunately my mom is still taking care of, well, I'm still living in her home, I would say, but I've spoken, I have a number of friends that aren't, and it's I think it can be a challenge if you're not prepared, but what I get from them is, of course, you need to be within the means that in the means of what you're earning. So don't live beyond your means. So budget, try as best as you can to budget, be responsible with your money, save. It's not easy. Even I myself, it is a continuous process. I mean, sometimes you do it better than others, but at least having that at the back of your mind, I think does help. I think it does help.
Thank you for that. It's really important to the comment you made there, that it's a learning process. I think the earlier you recognize that you're on a learning journey, the easier it is that you pick up the lessons and move with them. But thank you very much for that. Have you got any other advice that you'd give to youngsters? One of the things I've picked up is you've been open to learning through your experiences with your parents or aunties and uncles, and through your internships. You make an effort to give it your best. You've been open-minded wherever the opportunity is, open-minded, never knowing what it is that you're going to learn, and putting in the effort. So any other advice that you'd give to the younger people as they look ahead towards the future?
Yeah, I think you've highlighted some of the key takeaways. I think one that I mentioned earlier as I was talking is it's okay not to know what you want to do in life. It's a long journey, and I've barely scratched the surface, I myself, and so don't. I know it can be quite daunting where maybe what I've seen with some of my friends, you may think, okay, this so-and-so has got a job right out of uni, so-and-so is doing well, so-and-so is earning this kind of money. It's try not to compare yourself too much, because your journey is your own journey. So if it's your friends that are doing well, all you can do is support them and congratulate them and strive to get there. But there's no just in school where you're all in the same class, all doing the similar subjects and working towards the grades. In life, I think it's a bit different, that people are doing different things and at different levels of their journey. And the journey is it's not straight up, it's up and down. So everybody is just trying to get their groove. So it's okay, be open-minded. There's no rush. You just, as long as you're, I think, being open-minded, giving it, putting in the effort and working and trying not to compare yourself along the way, because that only throws you off and may take you a step back. I think you'll be okay. I'm still figuring it out as I am now. You talk to friends, people that are older than you, parents, uncles, just to ask for some guidance. I think that's also helpful, because sometimes you may not, you don't know what you don't know. But if you reach out and ask, someone might know something that you don't know, or someone may teach you something that you didn't know, or give you a different perspective. And it doesn't matter about age. It could be someone younger than you, someone older than you. Different cases, someone older than you may know better because they've gone through it. So yeah, I think be open-minded, be comfortable that it's okay not to not know what you want to do or not know where you're going. Take it a day at a time, and also remember to have fun along the way as well. You can get caught up in life with the whole work home cycle. I myself keep trying to adjust it as I go, but yeah, it's important to enjoy the journey and have fun along the way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Calvin. Thank you. Very, very wise words from a young person. So thank you very much. Of course, if some of the things that you've mentioned here, and we'll get some details about this intern group, which I'll share with our participants, because I think it's something very worthwhile. But generally, those nuggets of wisdom that you've shared about what would make this journey a worthwhile journey, I really do appreciate, and I hope my students will appreciate them as well. Thank you very much, Calvin. And
I mean, if they have any specific questions they would like to ask me, I'm happy to answer them at a later date. Yeah, I'm happy in case they have specific questions from what I've just said today towards me. I'm happy to always answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for making the time. I know you've got a busy few days ahead, which is why you couldn't join us at our regular time. But thank you very much for making the time with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hope it's been useful.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for joining us today. That was Calvin Mugenyi. I do hope you were able to pick up those nuggets of wisdom that he shared. And one of the things that actually a conversation that carried on long after the interview was some things that he mentioned, touching on the interaction between teens and parents. And we explored and discussed the aspect that with the advent of technology and social media platforms and our increased interaction with mobile phones, what typically used to happen in the past, at least I remember from my childhood, is we got dragged along. I called it being dragged along to see relatives and family friends, and we went along. We sat in the living rooms and listened into the conversations that were taking place. We had no phones to distract us, so we were an invisible part of those conversations between our parents and the other parents that we went to see. But that gave us opportunities, now that I reflect upon it, opportunities to hear what the grown-ups were up to in business, in work, in employment. And later on, those lessons come back. What we see happening now, yes, the visiting might still be going on between family, friends, and family members, with whole families going, but people get stuck in the gadgets, and the young people are not getting this information flowing into their ears about what the grown-ups are getting up to. So I think that's something that I picked up from that. But I hope you were able to appreciate this journey of Calvin's, where it's a slow motion view of what happened immediately after education. So in a period of about 2 to 3 years, he describes his feelings and uncertainties and things like that. And this is part of that normal journey beyond employment. But he took up every opportunity that I hope we'll pick that up, that we actually are quick to learn, be open-minded, and appreciate the journey that life takes us on. So thank you very much for that, Calvin. If anyone has got any questions that they'd like to put to Calvin, please put them in the chat and I will relay them and then get the messages back to you, inshallah. So we do have Mr. Isaac Mulindwa sharing his experience of business and how to make it work outside of business. Later on, I think in about 10 minutes or so, we'll have a quick chat with Isaac Sekalala, who is newer in employment compared to Calvin, just telling us about what lessons he's learned once he's got into employment. So, Mr. Mulindwa, are you still on? If anyone has got questions, please do put them in the chat or raise your hand and we can put them to Mr. Mulindwa and anyone that we have. So I've got a question for you, Isaac. We know we've got some parents on the session today as well. And my question is, how can we as parents support children and teenagers through these years into what they will eventually end up in beyond education? How best can we support children? I'll call them teens.
It has become easier in life. Both on one side, it has become very easy. On the other side, it has become very, 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 very hard to guide and understand what your kids want to do in the future. In the past, it was simple, very rudimentary, simple, but the parents kind of told you what you needed to do and what you needed to study and what profession you should be. And most people, that's what they followed. My dad is a doctor, I become a doctor. My uncle who's doing well is a lawyer, so my parents are forcing me to be a lawyer, to go and do law. And that's why you find that most of that generation people, most of them didn't succeed because they're forced to go do what they actually didn't want. Today, it's different. I think the generation now is more confused than ever before. I'm also not sure if it's more confused or it is us who are confused and are not sure what they're doing. The world is changing so fast, technology is changing so fast, the way we work is changing so fast, so that sometimes I think that our generation thinks the kids are confused, but that's because we also don't understand what is exactly going on. Yeah. So that in itself makes it difficult for the parent to narrow down as to which way the direction the child should go. But you need to be listening. You need to talk to the child. You need to understand what they want as them, not to force them to do what you as the parent wants, because no one succeeds in life. But by succeeding, I mean no one succeeds in a profession that they did not want to do, but were forced into doing it because of somebody else. They will never do it with their open heart. I think it's very much something like Calvin was talking about, finding your journey through and eventually settling onto something, one particular thing. So we need to be talking to the kids or the younger guys about what they want to do. And then once we know what they want to do, sometimes it's not the right thing, by the way. Again, it's not a matter of saying, no, don't do that. But it's a matter of saying, okay, you want to be what? I've had people who tell me they want to be footballers. And I said, okay, you want to be a professional footballer? And I said, yes. Okay, being a professional footballer is very, very difficult. The competition is stiff, the chances are minimal, but it's a good thing to try. However, let's do this. Have a backup plan. If football doesn't work out, what's your backup plan? So that you work with 2 plans. You don't kill their dream, because if you kill the dream, then they might resort to saying, I want to be a footballer, no one encouraged me, and all these feelings come out. But you don't kill their dream. I want to be an artist. I want to be someone who draws. I want to do this. Yes, but give them an idea that, look, let's have a second option. What is your second option in case that one doesn't work out? So then they can focus on 2 different things at the same time. They can focus on their football while they're keeping this second option, becoming a doctor or a nurse or whatever it is the second option. So that's how we need to be. One, we need to be listening to what they want. I'm a true believer in letting someone do what they want or they feel they like in life. Yeah. 2, I'm a true believer on encouraging people to try it out. I've got a very classic example of somebody recently I've been mentoring who came back and wanted to do something in events, and me knowing events and how they stand today, I knew it wasn't going to work from day one, but I didn't discourage it. I said, okay, you want to do that? Yes, I've got a couple of friends who are doing this thing, let's do it. And I said, no problem, continue and do it. But meanwhile, let's also do this other thing. This person came back 2 months later and told me, oh, that event thing doesn't work. And I said, okay, good. Let's concentrate on this other one then. You understand how it works. But it wasn't me saying, don't do it because it doesn't work. That's the way to do it. We need to talk and encourage them to do what they want. But if we feel what they want to do, in our opinion, will not work or is very difficult, tell them to have a second option. That's it.
Thank you.
I've lost your audio.
Yes, I realized it wasn't on. Thank you very much for that. I think it speaks into something here from Fatuma Birunji. Just before I read that, it's in the comment box. Have we got Isaac Sekalala on the call? Just please confirm that you're on. I'm not sure if if he is on. If he is on, okay, it looks like he is. Please do prepare, inshallah. In the next couple of minutes, we'll have you tell us a little bit, in about 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, how that transition into employment has been, what you've learned. So here we have a comment that I'm a young law student, but every time I tell my friends and family my passion for agriculture is calling, I need to start now, their response is no. Fatuma and your big dreams will kill you. How can I be helped? Because I need to start now. Do all the mistakes and learn from them. So that was a comment that came in just before we went into the video with Calvin. And I see that part of what you've talked about is exploring that and keeping that second plan if the parents feel that it's very difficult. But I'm really pleased to see that reading on in the chat. Mrs. Sechitoleko has asked Fatima to get in touch, and obviously she's a very big and iconic person in agriculture and has helped shape the agricultural landscape in Uganda. So thank you very much for that, Mrs. Sechitoleko. I hope Fatima gets involved. And just a couple more comments. Thank you very much. This is from Elizabeth Ngabire. My name is Elizabeth. My question is regarding that very many students graduate every year, but companies ask for working experience that we don't have. For example, 5 years, 6, 10, and above, leaving most of us in unemployment. What do you advise us to do, and how can this challenge be addressed? I think I can respond to that very quickly in that I'll point you towards the direction of internships. Calvin spoke about this. It's very difficult to get those 5-6 years of experience when you're just a fresh graduate, but you can always differentiate yourself by the nature of internships you've done to show that you are up to the job, you have that attitude to work. If you've got any additional comment to that, Mr. Mulindwa, please do add to that.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of Fatuma and farming, yeah. Again, it goes back to what I just said about not killing someone's dream. And Fatuma, please don't give up your dream. What needs to happen is that you need now to prove to everyone who's telling you don't do it, it's not going to work, it's bad, by starting something small that you can deal with by yourself. Yeah, it doesn't have to be big. Do something small, make it as an experiment, and see if it works. If it works, then you'll have proved to everybody else who's saying that don't try it, a big dream to whatever, you'll see them coming back to your side. So please start whatever you want to start, but start it small. Don't think huge, big dreams. Don't go start trying to plant an acre of corn. Don't go try to start an acre of tomatoes, whatever. Take a small field and do something small. You will do just fine. Then in terms of work experience, and I've come across this very often, people saying we don't have work experience. It goes back to what I told you earlier on, setting your destiny and knowing where you want to be in X number of years. What do you want to do? Some people are very early on in the age, they'll tell you, I want to be a banker. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a farmer. Now, once you graduate from university, besides the internships, if you've taken any, which you should actually do, and you want to be, some people will not even say a banker, they just say I want to be a bank manager, and you want to be a bank manager. As soon as you graduate, yes, I advise you, don't waste time running from this company, working for Mukwano, working for I don't know who, working for somebody else, and do all these things that don't connect. Go straight into the bank. And even if they're hiring for an office messenger and you have a degree and have graduated as an accountant or whatever it is, please take it. Just go and take whatever job is there being offered at that point, even if it means being a cleaner. Because if you get in, you're better off to negotiate your way once you're in the bank rather than when you're outside the bank. And if you get in as a messenger and you do your job very well and everybody likes you and you're delivering and you're helpful and you're doing beyond what Guess what? When a tailor's job opens up, they'll offer it to you. When you do that very well, and a tailor's supervision job opens up, they'll offer that to you. So you'll keep on going up and up and up and up until you become the manager that you want to be. However, most people do not take the chance of getting into the door, what we call getting into the door, when they can still afford to get into the door. When you've just graduated, you're still living home, you have no expenses, your parents are still looking after you. So basically, you're not looking for money. You're not looking for an income to go sustain your rent, your what, clothes, shoes, blah, transport. That. You're not looking for that. You're just looking to get out of home and get started in employment. People refuse to take those jobs, but guess what happens? Every year, the universities pump out more students. And as they pump those students out, the pressure becomes even harder for you to get in. And then every year that passes, once you're out of university, your expenses grow. Regardless, they will grow. First year out of university, you're probably staying in your parents' house. Second year, if you're lucky, first year, 6 months down the road to a year, boys are normally out of the house anyway. Now you have rent, you have transport, you have all these issues. Girls might tend to stay longer. First year out of university, they'll probably stay at home. Second year, they're probably still at home. So they don't have those expenses. But for you who already now has expenses, you start trying to want to earn an income that can sustain your expenses and beyond. So when they tell you in the bank, the opening is for a messenger, and they tell you the messenger's position pays 300,000. Meanwhile, you're thinking, but my rent alone is 400,000. My transport is another 150. So in the month, I need 1 million shillings. You guys are paying me 300,000. You don't take that job, guess what? That year passes. Next year, your expenses will grow, but then there are more students coming out. So you're better off to get into the position or where you want to be in life, to work in life at an early age when you have no expenses, because you will take whatever job is there and then you can grow internally. It's always easier to fight when you're inside than when you're outside. And I think from Calvin's discussion, and in the talk he was giving, perfect. He went into Citibank as a trainee. He got to meet everybody, and he made the point that when he went for the interview, all the faces were already familiar. And I'm sure all those people already liked him. So literally, the phase of taking him through the interview was just going through the process, because they had worked with him, they had seen him, they knew how well he worked, they knew how the straight young man was. So they already had feelings for him, rather than the other people who are just new to them coming from the outside. So you need to think that as soon as you're out of the university and you're sure, or almost sure, or even if you're not sure, go and get whatever it is in the field you want to be in. Even if it's not going to pay you, ask to go and work, because that's when you're going to prove to the people there that you're worth it, and they'll hire you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mulindwa. Brilliant response. So right now we're going to go to Isaac Sekalala. Please do turn on your video. Would like to hear from you in the next 5 to 10 minutes. What it's been like getting into work. You recently graduated and now you're transitioning into work. Just tell us a little bit about that, with the view that we're looking to help the young people on the call draw some lessons from your own experience and any guidance that you will have. After Isaac has been on, we'll open it up to question and answer if you've got any questions that you have. I know I've got one person here who's got a question. So Isaac Sekalala, welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Sophia. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I guess I can start from graduation onwards.
Yes, please, if you could, and into your first few steps into the world of work, paid work.
Okay, so I graduated in 2019 from Syracuse University in the States. The student visa offers 1 year of work employment or work training or vocation. They call it optical practical training or something like that, OPT. On this OPT, you have to you have to work in a capacity that relates to your field of study. My field of study was the entertainment industries and public communications. But in the States, entry-level positions in this kind of field are very tough to get, just because you can find somebody to replace somebody very quickly. There's a lot of people, there's a large supply of labor, and then the demand for them is so few because the companies only ever need those people for a short amount of time. Being a foreigner, being an international student, it's also harder because these companies are unwilling to want to sponsor you. So that then makes you somewhat unattractive for a long-term prospect. But after, working various odd jobs, I had worked things that sort of just fulfilled my OPT, but weren't really what I wanted to be doing. I eventually found luck, and I was working at Columbia Records, which is a Sony Music Entertainment subsidiary. And I was working there for about 2 months before, 2 weeks, before COVID hit, and then we obviously went into lockdown. So this was my first role, it's my first job in paid work, but then I'm doing the large amount of it at home, sort of just learning on the go in a very remote way, which was, I would say, not an experience that I think should repeat itself or should be something that would have been how it should have gone, but it was a learning experience in and of itself. And I think in that, I suppose one of the first early lessons in that time period was that I just needed to remain adaptable, needed to remain flexible, that opportunities would arise, but then I needed to understand that they weren't going to take place in this way that maybe I had always imagined or envisioned, that sometimes opportunities would come in a way that maybe I hadn't planned for or anticipated. I just needed to be ready. I needed to be sort of on my feet, prepared to respond either to emails or to people who were reaching out for something. Eventually, due to COVID, I'm not able to renew my visa, so I'm not able to stay on this job, and then I move back, which then begins another phase of figuring out, where do I fit, how can I add value, how can I gain value and experience. There's an initial reluctance to apply myself in certain places that might be obvious, just for the fear of not finding the value or the fulfillment that I was looking for. But I start by getting involved with ventures with friends, like Mr. Mulin was describing. You have an idea, you have other people who share this idea, and then between, the collective group, you also share the risk. And that offered me both something to do, something to keep me busy. It didn't offer me immediate ways to earn. But at this period in time, I'm still living with my parents. My expenses are relatively low. So I could, in a way, afford to do what I think Mr. Mulindwa and Calvin alluded to in some part, which was afford to try and afford to fail. Your expenses aren't, or your needs aren't to the point that you can't take certain chances, or or you can't take certain opportunities for the sake of learning alone, which was something that I think was the unconscious takeaway, or the unconscious value that was gained in sort of being around but not necessarily being in a fixed track of employment, was that the learning potential was very wide. I was sort of open to whatever venture or opportunity I thought could provide a learning experience or an opportunity to earn. And they didn't always convert into money. At some point, I was trying to get into the buying and selling of commodities, but I didn't have the maybe prerequisite skills, the capital, the tenacity for some of what that work required, but it just offered me insight into that world, which was valuable as far as understanding larger agricultural trends or larger sort of surrounding industries. I think at some point I was applying for other entertainment industry jobs across the continent, whether in Kenya or in West Africa. And there were also challenges there in that not being, flexible as far as traveling or being otherwise met, and that also is invaluable. Sorry, it says my internet's a bit unstable. Let me know if you lose me or if I become unclear. But I guess from there, again, there was other ventures or other attempts at trying to sort of find where I can both gain value and provide value. I, at some point, was distributing intellectual property digitally. So there's quite a community of either thought leaders or people in business who have written works, they've written biographies, but these books are not available online, they're not available digitally. So at some point I figured this was a gap. There was ways in which I knew how to convert what was physical into a digital product. But after a few attempts at this, I found it to be extremely laborious, because you have to be very attuned to details. And given some of the surrounding other things I was trying to also find a footing in, it just wasn't compatible. But in doing so, again, I met people, I met individuals, I sort of was exposed to another lane, another pool of possibilities, which was valuable. Eventually, the reluctance to apply myself in places that are obvious sort of dwindles as I need that space, I need that footing. And while I have the North Star and the dream to
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Isaac. I think your connectivity is acting up. We have lost you there. Okay, so we'll tune into Isaac as soon as he comes back on. But we'll just put a question over to got a question raised here. Oops. Okay. Apologies for that. I think we're having poor connectivity, either my end or Isaac's end. Isaac, are you back? Okay, so Isaac, when you do get back, please do make mention so we can get back to you. It was good exploring this this time that Isaac's spending trying to figure out what he wants to do. And I think one of the key things I'm picking up here that I'd like to share with the teenage participants and the other people is that it takes time. We are in in an age of digital quick response, quick satisfaction, and it gets us accustomed to having things actually happening and manifesting very quickly and promptly, even before we actually think about it. But just from listening to Isaac and his journey there, it might be a year or so, but it takes time. None of these things are quick fixes. None of them come very quickly. And you'll have seen that from Calvin's as well. I think as parents, talking and guiding the younger people, we need, I think, to help them appreciate that life doesn't operate always in that quick digital instant response, instant gratification, instant satisfaction mode. Yes, there are aspects of that, but real life is actually quite drawn out. And what might appear to take a moment's decision is actually after a whole month or two of everyday sameness before you actually get to something that is that critical point when we make a decision. So that's something I'm picking up from there. So we have a question here. Adam, can you please raise your question? Yes, you can read it out. Come closer to the microphone and read it out. I think, is it addressed to Mr. Mulindwa? Okay, it's about business. So Isaac Sekalala, are you back? Isaac Sekalala, when you come back, please do make mention so we can get you back, but we'll take this question and then we'll come back to you, Isaac Sekalala. So, Adam.
My question is, which mechanism can I put in my mind to overcome competitors in business? Like, for instance, I've had many complaints from business operators that eventually someone can corrupt because of competition. So I myself, I am somehow afraid because of the competition that is in business in Uganda today. So how can I overcome such?
Okay, Mr. Mulindwa, that's a question for you. How can he overcome what appears to be fear of competition? We'll take this question and then we'll come back to you, Isaac Sekalala.
Adam, do you play any sport?
Do you play any sport? Yes. He doesn't.
You don't. Now, therein lies the problem. Remember, I told you, business starts in life when you're young. So that's my question. Do you play any sports? Is because anyone who plays any sport knows that it's always competition. And if you go into any sport, when you're scared of your opponent, you're going to fail. They're going to win. You cannot go to play football against another school. You know, if you have a school team, I don't know, Chibuli is playing against Bodo, and already the team from Chibuli is scared. They're going to do what? To lose, because they're already scared. So you need to take up some sport now, young man. You need to find a sport that you get into that will start giving you the skills of getting over your fear. That's my answer to you, because there's no other way you're going to get over that fear except by you jumping in now and start to participate into it. Then you'll start looking at competition in a totally different way. I hope that has guided you enough. Find something that is competitive to do now.
Okay.
It will pay a lot for you in the future.
Thank you very much for that response. And I will hold my hand up. I'm going to hold Adam to that commitment. He has to find a spot, and I'll check up on him to make sure he does. And I think by now he knows that once I'm onto a mission, giving up doesn't raise its head. So over to Isaac Sekalala. Sorry, we lost you there, but we'll come back to you, please. If you can come back, please.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah. So the floor is yours.
So as I think as I was saying, I eventually come to a point of understanding, and I figure, much like what Mr. Mulindwa has said, as far as adding value to either something that you have, or something that you're given, or something that you're a part of, which is something I suppose I took to heart as far as what I felt I could contribute to the family business. The business is a radio station. It's a Uganda speaking radio station that has a very dedicated and strong listenership as far as its analog terrestrial signal goes. It's a very well-known, reputable brand. And I felt that there's no reason that this brand shouldn't also transcend and carry through digitally online. And in sort of both my work experience, my school education, and sort of that period of figuring it out, somewhat of the gap that I think I am finding my ways through is that there is great talent and great content and great intellectual property in East Africa that exists either physically or in an analog way, or just as far as, you know, physical culture goes, but that same content and talent doesn't have a space, doesn't have a voice online, or it maybe has a voice, but it could have an even larger, more amplified one. And I then sat down with Mr. Mulindwa and figured out how to go about this idea, how to do it in a way that was compatible with the business's goals and their vision and their ideas. And in being a new graduate or being somebody recently out of school, you have this energy, you have these ideas. There's just obviously a very wide spectrum as far as you're confused, you're trying to figure out what you want to do, you're trying to figure out where can you add value. But in some other instances, you have passion, you have energy, you want to exert yourself, you're ready to go. And sometimes maybe that provides a slight element of blindness or unwillingness to take advice or take guidance. So in this initial conversation with Mr. Mulindwa, there was a lot of clashing and having to understand each other and see where each other were coming from. But I quickly became humble to the fact that what I lack in experience, he has, or the individuals who I would be working with that did have that experience. And they were, I guess, humble, but also self-aware enough to realize that maybe what they lacked in exposure to a new way of thinking or exposure to new digital avenues or platforms, I had. So that made us able to sort of work with each other and see where the other person was coming from. I think this period, the big takeaway as well is that you somewhat have to rise to the occasion or rise to an opportunity, much like Calvin, who was given an opportunity at something that maybe he didn't have as much experience for. maybe what he didn't get into, because I also had the benefit of watching him in that period. It involved a lot of learning. It involved him having to operate at slightly more accelerated levels because he had to make up for what he didn't have in experience. And you can't approach those opportunities with the same effort and intensity that brought you there. Sort of have to up your game and start trying to find ways that you can keep up with what maybe you weren't necessarily ready for, but the only way now to be ready is to sort of learn as you go. And this now has been going on for about 7 to 8 months, in which there was an initial period that involved just learning the business, learning what each various department does, and how they all work with each other, what the business model is, how does the business make money, how does the business sustain itself, the history of the brand. And from there, I think I was able to then see where we could go, see how I could add value. And I think being open to learning as far as the main priority, as opposed to making a lot of money very early on. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you very much, Isaac. I do appreciate your openness and your honesty in sharing this exploration that you've had, because it's not an easy journey to, or an easy experience to share where you have perhaps not really performed at your best, not that you performed less than that, but where you have shown vulnerability. I appreciate that I hope people can take from that, and it's part of life. We are vulnerable in the most at the points of transition, so transitioning from education into work. But I'd like to watch the space both with you and Calvin, see how you explore and get to achieve bigger and better things. So thank you again for agreeing to meet our audience here, our students. Inshallah, we will interact a bit more. I will, just to let people know, I met Isaac earlier on this week, and I was very impressed by how he was able to hold himself in a meeting with senior people. So again, that comes from being able to apply yourself in the situation that you're in, albeit that you might be low on experience. It's high in passion, and that can drive success and get us to where we want to go. So we are wrapping up in the next few minutes. I'd like to thank everyone who's joined. If anyone's got any last minute question to put to either Isaac Sekalala or Isaac Mulindwa, please do put it in the chat, or you may raise your hand. I'd like to hear some more voices, 1 or 2 voices on the call before we close. But if there are any parting notes of advice or wisdom from Mr. Mulindwa, please do come on and share those, and then we'll have a moment with Isaac Sekalala to share his parting advice for what we have of teenagers that are on the call, or to parents as well. Please do direct your final comments and words to teens, parents, carers, and anyone who is on the call. Mr. Mulindwa.
Right. I think my parting words are very basic. The world is changing very fast. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of uncertainties. The younger generation is facing things that some of us didn't face because of how fast the information travels. But my advice to the younger generation is that always, always, always keep your ethics at the top of everything you do. Because everything that's going on around you, if you do not have the ethics that you've been brought up with, and they're not in your forefront of your brain, you will do the wrong thing. We also, when we're growing up, each generation has got its own distractions. Don't think the distractions have started today. If you go back to the 50s, there was distractions for that generation. You go to the 60s, there was the dancing, there was the, short skirts and all that drama that happened in the 60s. Now, that was my parents' generation. They had their own distractions. Some of them were taken down by those distractions. Some of them overcame and understood because of their ethics. If you come to our generation, we also had our own distractions. We had the discos, we had the freedom. We were the first people to be really free, by the way, you know, from generational ties and controls. But most of us overcame that and we became successful. So every generation has its own issues. But the only people that will survive it are the people that put their ethics first, and everything else around them is secondary. Because you'll make decisions based on those ethics that you've been brought up with. Do not start getting to, you know, listening to your friends whose ethics are different. Just because your friends are drinking alcohol, it doesn't mean you must drink. Just because your friends are partying every night, it doesn't mean that's what you should do. Just because your friends are doing drugs, it doesn't mean that's what you should do. Just because some, I don't even call them friends, but you know, you call them friends. Just because the people you know are escaping from home, it doesn't mean you should escape from home. All those judgments are from your head with your ethics. I think us as parents have done a job of giving you those ethics. Now, and unfortunately for you, the teenage years when they come is when you're truly and utterly tested. There's no other time that you're going to be tested in life as when you enter your teenage years. And that level used to be later. We used to be tested at 18, 19, and into the early 20s. Today, kids are getting tested from the age of 11. So making decisions at 11 is already hard. You're still young. You're still not sure what's going on. So it has become a problem. You're being tested. But as long as you keep your ethics that have been passed to you by your parents, you will be just fine. So don't think you're the new ones to have all these things going on. We also had them. Enjoy your life.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Isaac, Sekalala, anything else you'd like to add before I wrap up?
Yeah, I guess maybe 2, maybe 3 things, max. The first one is to just remain calm. I guess for both parents and teens, there's a lot of change. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening very quickly. And if you're unable to just keep a cool level ahead, it could get very overwhelming. It's probably the most amount of change at once that you have experienced since, you know, puberty. So a sense of being calm, I think, can get you through the moments that it's just a little bit too overwhelming. The second that I think helps in remaining calm is having a purpose, or having just a very, very solid foundational belief that you can sort of fall on when things do feel and look unstable. And then to sort of tie those 2 things together is understanding that it's going to take time, it's going to be a journey, it's going to be a process. It's not going to make sense very, very quickly. And the assumption, you almost need to let go of the idea that it will. And you might see people that it looks like it's adding up faster or slower, to run and focus on their own race and just be determined in the fact that it's going to be a journey. It's going to take some time.
Thank you very much for that. Again, some very wise words from Isaac there. So Alhamdulillah, we've come to the end of the session today. As you know, for our regular attendees, we run these, we have a weekly session on Sundays where we learn about the religion of Islam and try and see how to apply that to the life we have, so that we can balance the spiritual with the worldly. But we can't do that if we don't have the knowledge. So for the vast part of the year, we cover the very theoretical and practical aspects of the religion. But every now and again, on average, once every 6 weeks, we have a session where we invite guests, such as today, where we've had Mr. Mulindwa, Isaac Sekalala, and Calvin, who take us into their world, take us into the experiences that they've had that will allow us to make sense of the world that we have, with the ultimate goal that we're only here temporarily. We are going to meet our Lord. How do we meet our Lord in the best way? But today's session was really focusing on the fact that we need to get through life in a comfortable way. So what do we need to do after education? How can we prepare for that? I hope you have enjoyed that. There are many lessons to take from this. The video will be uploaded on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. You may contact me for details of that YouTube channel. We will have it up by Tuesday. By Tuesday, 8 p.m., this video will be up, inshallah. We have previously loaded the session we had on mental and emotional health. That was the session in July. But if there's anything else that you'd like to catch up on, they're all on there. So we'd like to thank, I would really like to thank Isaac Mulindwa, Isaac Sekalala, and Calvin Mugenyi, who've joined us today and shared aspects of their experience that will allow us to journey better through this life, allow us to prepare better for the challenges that come after education. When things go topsy-turvy, you don't have the security of structure that comes with education. Now everything is out there for you to explore and find out. But I would say I'd advise, as we've often been told in the session today, take advantage of the grown-ups around you. Get their experience. Most of us have got aunties, uncles, parents who do amazing things, but we never actually take time to appreciate that. It may not be comfortable, it may be out of your comfort zone. You might think it's boring. Auntie so-and-so does a boring job. Just take the time and spend it with them. You will be surprised by what you find out. Take the time to ask your parents, what does auntie so-and-so do? Can I spend time with them? And for the schools that have got work experience, take advantage of that. Those that don't, use the networks that you have through your friends and family. So inshallah, we'll keep it there for this week. We'll have more sessions to come. If you'd like to be notified of these, please do put it in the chat, inshallah, or communicate back to me through the channels that got you this message. And there's a WhatsApp group for notifications. But inshallah, please do engage your parents if you're teens, and parents do engage your youngsters on the very important topic of what happens beyond formal education. This is only a start of the discussions. It's not the end discussion. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you for joining, and have a good day and a good weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.